Hey everyone, this is Corinne Lafont, your favorite radio host, your only radio host, and favorite girl, of course, broadcasting to you from the lovely island of Trinidad and Tobago in the Caribbean on Between the Lines. And you know, I always start my show off with gratitude or thankfulness, as some people will say. And it's a beautiful day here. It's actually raining a lot. So it's between the rain and the sun, but I have my curtains pulled and I'm looking at the beauty of the rain. It's great to hear rain falling and to see the sun come out. I think they're kind of quarreling, when people see sun and rain stop and go, stop and start, they're having an argument. But I think they're doing pretty well, the rain and the sun. So it's a beautiful day out. I'm looking at it, seeing people passing on the road. It's beautiful, the birds, beautiful day ahead, yeah? And I have with me a repeat guest. A number of my guests, like to come back on my show, and it tells me that I'm doing a great job, a wonderful job in engaging them and that they feel so comfortable to be a repeat guest. I have Elsie Biscoff here. She was recently on my show. And she's doing a number of things that she would like to share with the listening audience and the viewing audience. Let me tell you a bit about Elsie. Elsie Biscoff is an international authority on the spiritual science of Martinus, and she has written 7 books in English about aspects of his amazing insight. Her first book is called Death is an Illusion, and it is a general introduction to Martinus cosmology. Her latest book, co-authored with Maria McMahon, is called Reincarnation in a Nutshell, and it explains why reincarnation is real. You can see all her books on our website, which is newspiritualscience.com, and I'm going to be featuring that as I normally do at the end of our 30-minute conversation. So welcome, Elsie, again to Between the Lines.
Thank you so much. I'm very happy to be back. That is
yes, it's great to have you, and you have a lot of books behind you. What's going on with that?
Yeah, indeed. It so happened that I had never imagined I would become an author, but then I encountered, that was in 1995, I encountered the Martinus material, and I was so overwhelmed because I had no idea that knowledge like this existed. And it turned out that Martinus, he's Danish and I'm Danish, so I'm able to read his work in the language it was written in.
Nice.
And when he was 30, and that happened in 1921, he had a very profound spiritual experience in which his consciousness was expanded, so that he was able to see beyond the physical plane and into the spiritual plane. Sorry, there's so many flies here. And into the spiritual plane behind. And he achieved cosmic consciousness. And it was just that on the basis of this insight, whenever he had a question, the answer would come like downloaded to him, and he would have the answer. So on the basis of this expansion of his consciousness, he was able to explain a whole world picture. He was able to reveal both the spiritual and the physical levels of existence and how they cooperate. And this happened in 1921, as I said, and Martinus died in 1981. So he lived for 60 years after his spiritual experience. And over those 60 years, he wrote 10,000 pages of spiritual wisdom. And it is the most complete revelation of spiritual insight ever disclosed to humankind. And I know people think that I'm crazy and that I'm exaggerating, but I am not. And I have spent the last 23 years studying the Martinus material, because once I encountered it, I was so enthusiastic. I thought, whoa, 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 whoa. I was beyond red hot with enthusiasm, because here it all was. Here were all the answers to all the questions that mankind has been asking forever. Like, is there life after death? Is this the only life we live? What happens when we die? What is the earth? Where are we coming from and where are we going? How does everything fit? And as I said, I was beyond enthusiastic. So once I had read his material, well, most of it, I said to myself, whoa, this is so amazing, I have to tell somebody about it. And that resulted in my first book, Death is an Illusion. And it was published in America in 2002. I was so lucky to find a publisher. Death is an Illusion, a logical explanation based on Martinus's worldview. And since then, I have written 6 other books, and I'm in the process of writing the 8th. Also, all about aspects of Martinus's world picture, because, as you can imagine, 10,000 pages written in Danish in a very complicated, not an easy, accessible writing style. It probably, in order for it to become better known, I think that it is quite important that somebody sort of dumbs it down, if you don't mind my saying that, because I don't like the word, but somehow it has to be explained in a way that is easier to understand than in his own words. And anyway, I mean, his original work is in the process of being translated into more than 20 languages, and it's a huge job. And but a lot of it has been translated into English, not everything yet, and none of it has been completely translated into another language. But in its totality, it can only be read by Danes. So I'm so lucky to be Danish, so I can actually read it. So that is what my life is all about at the moment, reading and writing about his material, because, as I said, it has the answers to all the big questions and then some. It explains why we're here, what we're doing here, why death is an illusion. And I mean, if we should talk about my latest book, which I co-wrote with a friend of mine, Maria McMahon, and that was the first book in a series we call the Nutshell series, because, you know, we want to explain some of the concepts that Martinus writes about in an easily accessible way, and that's why we call it the Nutshell series. And as I said, the first one is called Reincarnation in a Nutshell, why reincarnation is real. And we wrote this because I felt it was so important to state and to underline that reincarnation is much more than a belief, than a religious idea. Reincarnation is a fact, but we just have to look at the evidence, because the evidence is out there, no doubt about it, but we just haven't looked at it under the right looking glass, so to speak. So it's not that complicated, and we have written this book where we explain why reincarnation is real. All life forms reincarnate, not only humans, but flies and you know, cells, molecules, organs, atoms, and even smaller items, and planets. We are alive on a living being. The planet is a living being. It also reincarnates, but it takes a long time, obviously. Solar systems reincarnate, galaxies reincarnate. All living beings reincarnate. And the system of life is that we are all alive. It's living beings inside living beings, because inside us, inside our body, we have trillions of living beings. Blood cells, all our cells, our organs. We have a huge turnover of the living beings that are alive inside us. So it's important to understand that the structure of life is like living beings inside living beings inside living beings, and these living beings they die, they reincarnate, they die, they reincarnate, they die and reincarnate. For example, the cells in our body, but so do we. We do not only live one life. And we are not identical to our physical body. And that's probably the most important point in all this, because today the commonplace narrative is that we are identical to our physical body, and when the physical body dies, we die. Finito. That's it. it's all over. But it is absolutely not all over, because we are not our physical body. Who we are is the energy field that sits around the physical body. And this energy field, we can sometimes, as some people can see it reflected in our aura. But this is what we can call our spiritual body. And the spiritual body consists of some other type of matter than the physical body. Obviously, we know that we can see our physical body, we can touch it, we can hear it, but most people don't realize that invisible matter also exists. But even though everybody uses it every day, we use it when we talk on our cell phones, when we download, when we roam on the internet without a cable, when we use GPS. I mean, we know that there's something that is not visible and that can hold information. And as we use it every day, there's really no use discussing it, because we all know that this type of matter exists. The science of physics calls it electromagnetic radiation. And this type of matter is what sits around our body in a shape of a spiritual body. And this spiritual body is who we really are. And this spiritual body contains all the information about the person we are, all our character traits, our tendencies, what we like and what we don't like. Everything that we are, it exists as electromagnetic radiation, and it sits around our physical body. When the physical body becomes useless through old age or injury or an accident, then the spiritual body realizes that this instrument that it has been using for a number of years is no longer any good, so it pulls out. It pulls out, and with it, it's the energy field that gives life to the body. So all the life force that the body uses to move its whatever sits in this field that is around the body. And this field, when it leaves the body at the time of death, it pulls out, and then the flat line appears on the monitoring device. There's no more life in the physical body, but all the physical ingredients are the same. The physical ingredients are the same in a dead body as they are in a body that is alive. And what does that tell us? It tells us that whatever makes the body alive is not of physical, is not a type of physical matter. It is spiritual matter. It is electromagnetic radiation. But once this field pulls out, it does not cease to exist, because it's energy, and energy cannot cease to exist. So it pulls out and goes to a place in the spiritual world which is in its own length. And there it stays for a number of years, for a certain time, until it is time for it again to reincarnate, which means to come back to the physical plane to continue its evolution.
I have a question. Elsie.
Good.
I'm listening to you, and I do agree with you that we are energy. We are energy beings. We are in a shell. Temporarily, we are the body that we see physically is a shell, a form that is taken on this earth in this dimension. So I do agree with you. Yes, I do agree with you. I believe in that. And even when the body dies, that energy force, if you use one of those heat, they're able to see the force around you. That even though the body is physically
precisely, yes.
Yes, I know that happens. It has been proven. So even though the body is dead physically, you see somebody dead, heart gone, no pumping, no nothing, you're still alive in a spiritual form.
Yes.
What I want to ask is, when we talk of reincarnation, I think one of the questions that will come to a normal human's mind would be, okay, I see myself, when I look at myself in the mirror right now, I see this form. When I reincarnate, obviously I have to die in order to become something. Is it that I take the same, what form do we reincarnate in from Martinus's work? What does he suggest? Do we?
Yeah, it's a very good question.
Yeah.
It's very easy to answer because you are the same. You are the same whether you have a spirit, whether you have a physical body or not. You are exactly the same. You feel the same. We have the evidence from the near-death experiences who say that. They left their physical body, they felt exactly the same. So when you reincarnate, you come back as you. You don't come back as a snake or a rat. That is completely impossible.
Mm-hmm.
You can only come back as you. And because you have learned a lot in your last incarnation, you have accumulated wisdom, you have accumulated talents, you have done a lot, you have learned, you have become wiser. You reincarnate with all this new wisdom. You reincarnate into a new physical body. And
where do you get that body from? What do you mean a new physical body? So your spirit
yeah,
is moving
I'll let you know. I'll let you know.
Yeah.
Because yes,
And do I have a choice? Do I have a choice as to the body I go in? I want to have a choice.
Yes, well, yes and no, because what we have to understand is that it is the law of attraction. You know, the law of attraction decrees that similar wavelength energies on similar wavelength attract each other. Yeah. So you have your spiritual body sitting up in the aura of the earth, and at a certain point in time, you have a physical couple having sex on the physical plane. Mm-hmm. And during the act of intercourse, they emanate a very strong spiritual energy, which of course we all know when we have sex, we emanate.
Yes.
You know, and especially at the time of orgasm, we reach a very high and fine wavelength. Mm-hmm. And this high and fine wavelength is high and fine enough to reach up to the spiritual plane and make contact to a spiritual being waiting to reincarnate. There's a lot of spirits waiting to reincarnate. So the two get attracted. They attract when the wavelengths are more or less the same. They will attract each other. And at the moment that the sperm cell enters the egg, the third party, which is the discarnate being waiting to reincarnate, joins the party and takes over control of the whole of the embryogenesis. And this is hugely important because this has never been understood by science. They think that all it takes is the sperm cell and the egg cell. Mm-hmm. And they don't realize the absolutely huge importance played by the spiritual being, because the spiritual being has in its spiritual body, which is, as I said, a field of information, all the necessary information for the creation of a new body. Its body, my body, the body that I want for my continued journey on the physical plane, reflecting everything, the karma, you see. So all the information necessary for the creation of the new embryo is in the energy field of the discarnate being. The egg cell and the sperm cell, they don't have a clue. They only deliver the physical matter, the very small amount of physical matter that is necessary for the spiritual being to get this process going.
Let me interrupt here. What you're saying is very, very significant, and I would love everybody to hear this, because people take sex as just a whimsical, anyhow type of thing. And it is it is extremely spiritual, and they don't understand the significance of it and who they, what do you say, copulate with, is that the word? You know, or co-create with.
Yes.
They don't understand. I remember in my faith, my background is Catholicism. We were being trained on that. The whole idea behind sex and the connection with spirituality, and what you're saying is exactly what we were taught. And they teach these things to the young people, you know, because, you know, when they start getting all those sort of puberty symptoms, you know, the hormones and everything, they start rushing.
Yeah.
So you have to get them when they're young. so that they understand the importance of getting into that sexual activity or intimate activity, what it can do. And you know, when you're saying that, I want people to understand how important and significant it is. The fact of, one, you coming together with another human being to be intimate, and two, creating another human being. Creating another human being. And if you want if you want to have the right human being coming out of you, from this co-creation or procreation, you have to keep in mind that a spirit, a being is waiting to enter into that point in time when you reach that orgasmic state. You're thinking it's just two of you alone. No. There are beings, spirit waiting to connect with you. You're opening up. You're opening up a vacuum. You're opening up a porthole or whatever they call it to allow this person or persons in. And it's not only, and Elsie, it's not only through sex. There are lots of things that we do, but sex is the ultimate. There are lots of things that we do that opens a porthole for a spiritual being to enter. And I want persons to take away from this, in my interpretation from listening to you, to become more aware and conscious of the things that we do and say, not only on an individual level, but also with another human being, that it opens up the opportunity for spiritual beings. And probably you don't have a choice as to which spiritual being comes in between, because it all depends on that vibrational frequency that being comes in. It mightn't be the type that you want, but because you're vibrating on that particular energy, the two individuals, male and female, that you're attracting or calling in a being that is at that particular level, it might not be what you want, but you don't have a choice.
There are two things I want to say. First of all, that in order for a spiritual being to be attracted to a physical couple, they have to have a certain similarity in wavelength. So you will only be attracted to people who you are on wavelength with, mentally and intellectually and emotionally. You understand? Mm-hmm. So you can't. I mean, if you're a very loving and very humanitarian person, you cannot be born to very warlike people. You simply cannot, because the law of attraction will prevent it. You won't be attracted to each other because there's not enough similarity in your wavelengths. So if you are a very loving person and want to help, you will be born to parents that fit that description. You see? So in that respect, you choose your new parents by the person you have become. When you have become a very loving, understanding, humanitarian person, you will be chosen, or you will be attracted to parents that fit that description.
Hold 1 second there, Elsie. Now that goes back another level. You as a female, let's talk of us as a female. We have to be careful to work on ourselves, like you said, first. Work on ourselves first. So we're not even reaching the point of sex yet. We're talking about you first. Work on you first so that you can attract the right partner into your life, another physical partner into your life.
Yes, so that's true.
When you do procreate and decide you want to have a child, the two in union would be vibrating at the same frequency. So by the time you have sex and vibrate at that orgasmic level, the right spiritual being would come into that union.
Precisely.
Making that child what you would ultimately want it to be, even a higher version of you as parents, because now the two parents are vibrating at the right level, which is why they attract each other, and then the spiritual being comes to bring that union together. Oh my God, you just have the right child.
But mind you, Corinne,
you know what I'm thinking? You know what I'm thinking, Elsie?
Yeah, but the spiritual being comes in and creates a body completely in his own favor, because he has a project. He has a project that he comes down to earth to realize. And he doesn't have, his project is not to be a prolongation of the parents. His project is to do this, that, and the other, and to learn this, that, and the other. So we should never expect that our children are prolongations of us, and we should never try to control our children at all. We should be happy that they have been born to us, and we should do everything that we can to support them and help them as long as they need us, but we should never control them.
Elsie, that is my thinking. That is
they
my
come in
thinking.
with their own agenda, and we
That's
all
right.
know that. We all know that. We all know how, from the way we reacted to our parents when they tried to control us.
We know this. We know this all too well, Elsie.
Yes,
and I
exactly.
totally agree with you. I have always been the type of parent. We bring children into the world. You cannot make their mind. Sometimes you see certain personalities coming out of your children, and you're trying to blame the father. The father is trying to blame the mother. That's all you. That's all you.
Yeah.
No, that's
Yeah,
your grandmother. I see so and so in her, or I see so and so in him. But I have always raised my children to be independent and to support them in whatever they do, because I don't believe our children belong to us. But
no, absolutely not. They belong to life.
Of course, now that you're explaining that, they are not a proliferation of us, which is significant.
No.
You're dropping some bombs here.
Exactly.
This is going to be shaking a lot of people, because Elsie, we have been brought up to believe that they belong to us, that they are of us, from us, and so they should represent us. And why are you this way? And you should be that way. And you try to control them, as opposed to look at them as a separate identity.
Precisely.
And help them to be who they are really meant to be.
Yeah, precisely. And it's also important to underline that the spiritual being, the incoming soul, picks and chooses in the genetic material. The genetic material is not something that is like carved in stone. It is something that the incoming soul can manipulate with. So it takes only the genetic material that fits its bill, that fits the agenda it has for this time around. So we shouldn't think that our genes are the only thing that define the baby. That's a huge mistake. The baby has its own, its whole own identity with it when it reincarnates. And we know that. I mean, when we look at young children, they have a personality, they have characteristics, they have firm beliefs and convictions. They are not the unwritten slate that we have been taught. Absolutely not. They are mature souls that come in to the physical plane for yet another incarnation, yet another stay on the physical plane to learn, to move forward in its evolution. So that is why they come back, and we're all on a journey, on a very long evolutionary journey, and that is why we come back. We come back to evolve towards becoming better, more humanitarian, more all-loving beings. And for whatever sufferings we experience, we develop compassion, and we become more and more humanitarian, more and more all-loving for each life we live. So it is really a very optimistic process that we are in. And let me just say something about sex, because you mentioned that you grew up in a Catholic environment, and I also grew up within the Christian belief system, although we were Protestants. But it doesn't really matter, because I was taught when I was young that sex was a sin and which should be avoided at all costs, and it would take you right to the gates of hell. And that is the most twisted, wrong concept of sex, because sex is really it's a sacred act, and in this sacred act you are in direct contact with the Spirit of God, because it's the only way that you can actually climb up to a very high position where you can touch the tiny little and those who think that sex is sinful and I don't know what, they have really got it wrong. But this will all be revealed. I mean, we're in a process where we're changing the view we look upon, the way we look upon so many things. And I think that reincarnation is one of them, and is maybe the most important of them, because oh my God, what happened?
No, I just brought up the the books, your website. Don't get frightened.
Okay.
I just brought up your website.
Okay. No, but it's just important to realize that the way reincarnation takes place is that a spiritual being reincarnates at the moment of fertilization into a new into the zygote, the fertilized egg, and from then on the spiritual being takes over the whole orchestration of the creation of the new baby. It would, nothing happens. Nothing is going to happen if the spiritual being does not join the party, and that's, it's as simple as that. And so here we have our book, our latest book, Reincarnation in a Nutshell. And here you can read all the logic, all the basic philosophy behind. You can read why the one life theory is really, it's so wrong. It has no connection with the real world. The one life theory is like my pet aversion. And you can read the evidence for reincarnation and how it takes place, how reincarnation takes place. So here in this book, it's only 123 pages. You will have a whole package which will convince you that you do not only live once, that you are an eternal being on an eternal journey through spiritual and physical realms in a universe where the basic tone is love. Isn't that amazing? I mean, you want to change the way you look upon the world. If you want a happier and more optimistic way of looking at it, then you should read not just this book, but really much more of the Martinus material, because Martinus's material is in such stark contrast to the gloom and gloom that we are living in today. Oh, the world is going down the drain, and we'll all be dead in 100 years.
Well, no, I am not for the doom and gloom. I believe in the positive. I always keep positive, and this is why I shed and remove a lot of negativity and negative people from my life.
Very good.
Whether they believe or I really don't care. I have to do whatever it is to protect my mind and protect my spirit, because it is not in keeping with my spirit. So,
keep them at bay.
more than at bay, I actually totally remove them out of my life.
Yes, do that.
At bay they might still swim and come on the shore. No, they're not swimming and coming into shore. Elsie, as usual, this has been a fabulous, the word just came to me and went out my head, but this is a fabulous exposure and a new enlightenment. I don't know if it's necessarily new. It's new to people who are not aware.
Yes, precisely.
Who are not living in, I don't want to say the real world, because nothing in front of us is really real. That's how I see it, not really real. So I want to say thank you so much for opening the eyes, the ears, the mind, and the spirit for those who at least plant the seed, which is what my show does. Plant the seed.
Yes, plant the seed. That's where we have to start. We can only start there.
Yeah, because people are accepting of what they see with their physical eyes without thinking that there is something more than what they physically see. So I want to thank you so much. I want to thank you so much for pursuing the work. There must have been a reason why it was written in Danish, why Martinus had to be Danish, because you were Danish. Everything is happening for a reason, and it just had to be you.
Yeah, it is so true. Yes.
It just had to be you. There's always a connection in the universe for why things happen.
That is so true.
We don't know, but there is a plan. We don't know the plan, but there is a plan. There is a plan. There is a plan, and we are in it. And all we need to do is just go with the flow. Go with the flow. Go with the flow. Elsie, thank you so much.
If you read this book, Reincarnation in a Nutshell, we actually reveal the plan, and in the last chapter, the master plan, and that is mind-blowing. I tell you, you will love it. It is so mind-blowing. It is amazing, logical, intelligent, everything.
What we discuss is already mind-blowing, and when you were on my show before, it was mind-blowing. Are you telling me there's more mind-blowing? Oh my goodness. So I would suggest people get a copy of this, even if you doubt. What do you have to lose? There's nothing wrong with gaining knowledge, with opening your mind, with questioning. You must question. Don't just accept. Stop being one to just accept. You know, be open to hearing new information. You just don't know the path that it will take you on. Thank you so much, Elsie, for being
Thank you for having me, Corinne. It was a pleasure. Thank you.